Back with Scott Ritter and Nima discussing Lebanon, Ukraine, Russia. Let's get into it.
What is your understanding, Scott, of the battlefield between Israel and Lebanon, basically in southern part of Lebanon? Because it shows we are witnessing various footages coming out of the southern part. They're hitting Israeli soldiers, communication systems, Iron Dome batteries. They're hitting everything. They try to do something about, that's some sort of protection for the equipment they have in the southern part of Lebanon. It seems that has failed. Just keeping their soldiers in a safe place in southern part of Lebanon is becoming one of the greatest challenges that the IDF is facing right now. And what is your understanding of that? Because yesterday they said the yellow line, and we're going to cross the yellow line they draw in the southern part of Lebanon. And it doesn't seem that they're going to be able to, to hit these FPV drones, because they're getting out of the hand for Israel. They don't know how to deal with that. What is your understanding of Israel and their policies in southern part of Lebanon?
Well, Israel wants to defeat Hezbollah. That's a strategic objective. They've been working that on a number of fronts. But ultimately, to defeat Hezbollah, you have to win on the battlefield. And Israel right now is stymied on the yellow line. They are stuck there. Every time their forces attempt to push through it, they get beat hands down by Hezbollah. The Radwan forces are better than the Israeli Defense Forces when it comes to a stand-up fight. Israel is trying to mass forces and do a breakthrough, but the problem with massing forces is mass requires sustainability. You have to bring logistics in to create the potential of the mass to move forward. Then you have to sustain it with continuous logistics provisions. And that means that all you have to do is take a look at where the yellow line is and draw a line back to Israel where the logistics bases are, and they have to get equipment from there, material from there, push it forward through occupied Lebanon. And again, look at the map. It's difficult terrain. It's got limited lines of communication that are predictable. They create funnels, and that's how you start. So what Ukraine's doing, what Hezbollah is doing right now is employing FPV drones, not only to beat down the Israelis on the front lines, but more importantly, to control up to 20, 30, 40 kilometers deep. You have FPV drones right now operating inside Israel, taking targets out. But more importantly, they're interdicting the sustainability, which means you can't do an offense. I can't run an offensive operation with sputtering logistics. Because when I commit, I'm committing, I'm telling you to push forward, and there must be reinforcing capability, supporting capability, sustaining pressure on the enemy. The moment you stop sustaining pressure on the enemy's up, and they're able to counterattack, pinch off, counterstrike, disrupt, and your offensive sputters out. Welcome to the reality of modern war. And so what Hezbollah is doing right now is, as Israel tries to put forward, they're breaking up the sustainability with these FPV attacks, hitting logistics, hitting resupply, hitting force structure, and Israel doesn't have a solution to it. Hezbollah is just learning how to do this, first of all. They have some, but it's not like an overwhelming number. They haven't come in with a drone swarm yet. They're just learning how to do this, and you saw early on with some of the videos how they're tentative. They come in and a little hesitant in what they're doing, etc. They're getting better. They're more and more decisive. I will tell you that if this was Russian drone operators or even Ukrainian drone operators operating with the resources available in either Russia or Ukraine, the IDF would be wiped off the battlefield, eliminated in totality, because it doesn't know how to operate in this environment. And Hezbollah is getting better and better and better and better, and the Israelis don't have a solution. Maybe they will get a solution at some point in time. The solutions are there, but it requires force structure. You have to develop your own UAV branch, and you have to train them, equip them, have doctrine, have tactics, and make sure everybody's trained up on it. Israel hasn't even gotten off the ground. Hezbollah now has taken some important steps. But now imagine if you're the United States or any NATO country and you want to take on the Russians. You don't stand a chance. None. You'll never get out of the forward operating positions. You'll be dead before you know it, because Russia is drone dominant. Ukraine has drone capabilities that the West doesn't have. Israel has nothing to counter the Hezbollah drone superiority that they enjoy at this point in time.
Scott, one of the main reasons that we are not talking about the war in Ukraine is because Donald Trump has created a huge chaos in the Middle East, which has influenced the global economy. And every one of us, I'm here in Brazil, my economy has been hit by the crisis in the Persian Gulf with the Strait of Hormuz. We know what has happened to our economy and how the prices are increasing here in Brazil, for example. So that's why many people want to know what's going on in the Middle East. That's a huge problem, in my opinion, when you look at what's going on in Ukraine, because the escalation is going on and on with the drone attack, Ukrainian drone attack on civilians in Russia, which somehow is escalating. Who's providing these drones? We know the Europeans are doing that. Ukrainians themselves are producing some of them. And what is the outcome of this drone production is the new escalation. That's why Russia used again a Reshtnik missile in Ukraine. How dangerous is the situation getting on the battlefield in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, on the battlefield, first of all, you have to separate the two. There's a battlefield reality, and then there's this other reality taking place. The Ukrainian long-range drone operations are having some impact on Russia, but it's primarily psychological warfare, mental warfare, people would call it, trying to instill notions of impotence, to sow disillusionment with Vladimir Putin, et cetera. They're not playing to the liberal elites of Russia. They don't exist anymore. They're not politically empowered. They're playing to the true patriots, the people that want to win this war, are now getting the feeling that Russia can't win this war, that Putin won't win this war, doesn't know how to win this war. That's what these long-range drones attack are doing. So they're not having a militarily significant impact. They're having a mentally significant impact, therefore a politically significant impact. And they crossed a red line. They struck a girls. Had this girls, not a teacher school, primarily girls died. I think 3 guys died as well. But they're students, teenage students. Had they done this a month ago or 2 months ago? Remember, the Ukrainians went into Kursk and slaughtered, butchered hundreds of Russian elderly, innocent civilians whose only crime was they couldn't evacuate a village long enough. So when the Nazis came in, literal Nazis came in, they raped them, they murdered them, they dismembered their bodies, they left their bodies to rot. And the Russians have documented everything because these idiot Nazis went in there and they filmed the rapes, they filmed the murders on their cell phones, and then they went out and got killed by the Russians who captured the cell phones and can document the crimes. But that didn't get Russia to change the paradigm. Putin has been running a very well-balanced war that he's winning, by the way. I don't care what pro-Ukrainian social media says. The facts are the facts. Putin has stabilized Russia's economic situation, flipped the script, has a growing economy that's completely mobilized when it comes to defense industry, churning out the weapons necessary. And he has a sound, stable geopolitical base through diplomacy to have, China and others together on, pursuing a multipolar world, and got China to recognize that Ukraine is to Russia as Taiwan is to China. Therefore, China will never walk away from Russia on this. This is all a victory that can only happen if Putin was very pragmatic and patient on the battlefield. You didn't want to get sucked into overreacting in a way that, undid the diplomatic support, disrupted the economic development or recovery, and weakened you overall. You could win on the battlefield, lose strategically. Putin has been slowing it down on the battlefield, winning strategically. But the problem is that this attack at the school at this point in time, it was a straw that broke the camel's back. It just turned out to be the story that the Russian people were no longer willing to stomach. And this had political ramifications, and Vladimir Putin's government is now taking decisive action. Let me explain what has just happened. Ukraine lost the war. NATO lost the war. Europe lost the war. You will not win. They will not win. It's impossible to win because Russia now views this as existential in nature. We're going to be looking at the erasure of Ukraine, the physical erasure of Ukraine. The head of the State Duma on defense gave an interview where he has expanded upon the statements made by the foreign ministry and the defense ministry. But basically, what's about to happen to Ukraine is going to continue until Ukraine accepts unconditional surrender. That's it. So Russia's made that choice now. It's no longer a debate. It's no longer a discussion. We don't have to debate what did Sergei Karaganov mean or what did so and so mean. We now know at least what Russia says. Now we can find out that Russia's all talk, no action. I don't think they are, but I think you're going to wake up tomorrow seeing a completely different reality on the ground, or wake up soon. Russia has given sufficient notice for people to leave Kiev. I think 48 hours is more than enough notice. So we'll see what happens tonight. It could happen very soon. But it's not just Oreshnik, one Oreshnik. I think you're going to see a whole bunch of Oreshniks. I think you're going to see a whole bunch of capabilities brought in. And this is going to be sustained. It isn't going to let up. This isn't going to be one and done. This is the end of Ukraine. And if Europe wants to play ball, it'll be the end of Europe. I think Russia's at that point right now where they're done playing stupid games with stupid people. That's where we are.
And that's it. Like, since that attack on the dormitory, there wasn't anything on the BBC, but the retaliation, and I think the drone has struck somewhere in Romania. All the UK press have spoke about is that Russia fires drones, etc. Like, why doing that? Like, you're just getting propaganda off the mainstream media. You're just getting propaganda. I still don't know why they keep vilifying Russia. And unfortunately, we in the UK, Germany and France, and especially Ukraine, are about to find out, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't so.
Do you think that the war would go to Europe because of the support, because the way that they're producing drones?
It's gone to Europe. What do you mean, will it go to Europe? Europe is an active participant in this conflict. So the war will go to Europe. Europe wants to play. I mean, it's amazing. Europe kept going, we want war. We want it. We want to go to war. France, we're ready for war. England, we're ready for war. Germany, we're really ready for war. NATO, we're ready for war. The Baltics, we're ready for war. Not just ready, but we want war. We're looking for war. We will be at war. We are in war. That is a quote from the Pistorius, the German defense minister. We are at war with Russia. Well, hey, guys, you don't have to ask more than once. You want a war? You'll get the war. And they're going to get the war, because once Russia begins the erasure of Ukraine, you're going to see that strings are attached to those people who continue to sustain Ukraine's elements. If Ukraine keeps launching drones, and Zelensky has promised a big month in June, I mean, he's going to attack everything. The British are giving him drones, Germany giving him drones, everybody gives him drones. NATO's giving him intelligence. And he's going to just blanket Russia with drones. Well, Russia's going to erase Ukraine. We know that's happening. But then they will start to erase Europe. Europe made that choice. Now, the only way Europe can get out of it is to say, oh, we were wrong. We don't want war anymore. We're not looking for war. And you're starting to see that panic come out of the Baltics, because the Baltics recognize they've gone a little too far and they're sort of left hanging right there. That's why you have this group coming in and talking, we're going to defend the Baltics. But what they're really saying is stop allowing Ukraine to use your country as a corridor. Because I can guarantee one thing. I'm going to be in Russia this time next week, attending the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, to speak at a panel. It's a big deal, bigger than Davos, number of people coming, etc. If Ukraine launches drones attacks to disrupt the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, it'll even get worse for Ukraine. But moreover, any nation that facilitates the transit of Ukrainian drones that strike St. Petersburg during this time period, or at any time period going forward, are also going to pay the ultimate price. Narishkin, the head of the Russian intelligence services, identified, I think, 7 decision-making centers related to Ukrainian drone operations on the soil of Latvia. And everybody's coming together, oh, you can't talk, that's not really happening. But they all know what the truth is. The Latvians know what the truth is. And at this drone thing, the Latvians say, yeah, we got to stop this. And they're saying, you got to stop this because Russia will take them out. We just have to look at Oreshnik production. Russians said they went into serial production of Oreshniks in August of last year. Let's call August a null month. They started, but they didn't get it. September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 9 months. Now, let's say the low range of Oreshniks can be produced is 5 a month. 9 times 5 is 45. So there's 45 erections. Russia's fired 3. There's 42 left out there. I say that the production could go up to 25 a month based upon my experience, direct observation at Vodkinsk. But it probably isn't, because there's competing resources through the YARS, which incorporates elements that are also with the Oreshnik. So you can't, rob Peter to pay Paul. So let's say instead of 25, they're producing 12. That's a good median number, 12. 9 times 12 is 118. No, it's not, Scott. Yeah. 108. 9 times 12. 18. Was I right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, that 12, was 10 is 108. 108. You're right.
Marine math. I mean, come on.
Yeah, 108.
I said 118 first, but I was like, no, that can't be right.
The second one.
Yeah, 108.
But you did it right after that.
But because every once in a while it clicks in. But the point, because I'm counting my fingers. But my point is 108 is totally different than 42 in terms of capacity. The other thing is Russia doesn't rush ahead of its capability. They don't get ahead of their skis, so to speak. When Russia makes a decision, they have the resources to back it up. All along, people go, Russia's going to run out of missiles. I'm like, Russia will never run out of missiles. Once Russia agrees, it goes on this, that's because a decision has been made that we can sustain this activity and sustain the feed into this activity without sacrificing overall strategic capabilities. That's how the Russians think. Unlike the United States, we've got a war in Iran, and we ran through everything, had no production, we had to steal everything, and we've weakened the whole world. We are the opposite of Russia. Russia doesn't work the way we work. Russia works differently. So for Russia now to commit to the erasure of Ukraine and to retain the capacity to launch debilitating strikes against Europe, I'm thinking that means that their production level is higher than 5 a month. I could be wrong. I don't know. We know also that they have other systems that haven't been publicized. The Russians have bragged about this. They said there's talk about whispers about an Oreshnik 2.0. Don't know what that is, but 2.0 implies it's better than 1.0. We know that they have modern versions of the KH-101 missile. We saw something pretty cool. I'd have to see the whole thing, but it appears that it was coming in and got intercepted, got knocked off, and then corrected and continued its mission. So we know that coming in, they're launching countermeasures off that are sucking Patriots out. But they also have, the Iskanders, the standard Iskander M's. They have the Iskander K's, long-range cruise missiles. They've built those, again, with countermeasures. The Russians just have a lot of systems available. They could even employ the YARS with avant-garde, non-nuclear, hypersonic maneuvering warheads to come in and hit other things. What game does Europe want to play? Russia's ready to play that game. I don't think Russia makes this decision because the Russians think through things, cause and effect relationships. And they don't make this decision lightly, which means they've thought it through. They have a plan. They have contingency plans. They have the resources to implement these contingency plans. Meanwhile, Europe has nothing, literally nothing. They don't even have 4,200 American troops coming anymore because Pete Hegseth said, no, we're canceling that. It's amazing. But half that equipment is already put on ships. Now they have to offload the ships. They'd actually sent men and women to Poland as advanced party. They have to come home. And the disruption, I've been in the military. When a unit deploys, that means they've already taken all their leave or, and they've moved their families. Many of them move their families because, you can't have your wife with a newborn baby sitting in a base house. So you've relocated your wife home. You've done a whole bunch of stuff, put a whole bunch of money down there, life-changing decisions. And now, nope, it all's going to happen. And now they have to get a training schedule back up. Schools were canceled. Schools were the chaos that was done. But this is why Pete Hegseth is the worst Secretary of Defense in the history of Secretary of Defenses, because the chaos that he has created for these soldiers. You think they want to re-enlist? This is life-ruining stuff to some of these soldiers. He doesn't.
He doesn't care. But I hope I'm wrong. But NATO and Europe, I think we're going to find out soon, I think we are. Poking the bear, like they say. And people trying to compliment Trump, it's 4D chess. He's doing all this to weaken China. all it's doing is making Iran, Russia and China stronger. It's making BRICS stronger. Worrying times, worrying indeed.